Nothing is going to happen unless both parties are willing to face the so-called entitlements program. You can cut the military budget $100 billion. You can get rid of all the earmarks. You can get rid of the waste, fraud, and corruption, and it might reduce the budget by $100 billion, and you have a $1 trillion deficit. So now you have a $900 billion deficit instead of a $1 trillion deficit. The estimating agency that the Congress believes is the Congressional Budget Office, because it's their own organization. They created it. The Congressional Budget Office, it's almost 2 months ago now, made an estimate for this year, taking just Social Security and then other government retirement, military retirement or federal employee civilian retirement, those two, plus Medicare and Medicaid, and then interest on the debt. Those five, this year, will be 49% of all the money the government spends. If there's no change in law, they estimate that in 10 years it will be 69% of all the money the government spends. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. Or if you add what we're going to spend on the military consistently, even if you cut it, there's nothing left for environmental protection or dams or highways or anything else. And each party is afraid to address the entitlement program for fear that the other party will just kick the bejabbers out of them. They're the ones that wanted to ruin Social Security. They're the ones that are taking away your Medicare. You can see the ads. So neither party is willing to do it, and I think the only way it can be done, it has to be, a Democratic president. And I'll tell you why in a minute. The president says to no more than 10, 12 leaders in the Congress, Republican and Democrat, 2 or 3 academics from outside, maybe somebody from ARP and one other. We're going to Camp David this weekend. We're going to talk about entitlements. We may stay there all week. We're not coming back until we come out holding hands, because we all know the problem. And the problem is that those entitlements, I don't want to use the word cut. I'm not using the word cut. But their growth is going to have to be restrained in both the health area and the retirement area. And the reason I think there has to be a Democratic president taking that lead, if a Republican president tries to do it, he'll be accused of trying to do it in the middle class. But the bulk of these entitlements are middle-class entitlements. They're not basically entitlements for the rich. So I think it has to be a Democratic president would have the credentials to be able to do that. It's sort of the reverse of Nixon going to China in the early 70s. I'm not sure a Democratic president could have gone to China in those days. We were still blaming the Democrats for losing China. So President Obama could do it, I think. I don't know if he would or will, but he could. But short of that, I don't see anything happening in Congress, short of a miracle where the 4 leaders, the House and Senate Republican Democratic leaders get together and say, listen, gang, we all know the problem. But the key is they must, if they're going to try that, they must have the president at least on board. If he says, well, go ahead and see what you can come up with, and I'll make a decision, that is not going to work. He has got to, at a minimum, be on board. I'd rather he take the lead. But you've got to have an ironclad commitment from the president ahead of time that he understands the problem. He does. Every president knows the problem and is willing to go along with the solution.